Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury and Bulldog Nation, I am honored today to have a guest to interview, the one and only Mark Hansel.
Good to see you, Eric.
You part of the Hansel and Greta gang?
I am.
All right.
I am.
Mark, I am honored to announce today that you are going to be the managing editor of the Bulldog Report, and we're going to talk about what exactly that's going to be. But first, I would like the ladies and gentlemen of the American jury to know a little bit about you and your background. From college till now, tell us about yourself.
Okay, well, I was a non-traditional college student. I spent about 20 years in
That's
retail.
popular today, being non-traditional.
It is. I try to be popular. But anyway, I went to the University of Cincinnati when I was in my late 30s because I've always wanted to be a journalist, but I had a family when I was young, so I wasn't able to do that when most people do. So I went to the University of Cincinnati. I interned at a couple of newspapers around town. First, the Community Press, the Community Recorder over here. And then I interned at the Post, the Cincinnati Post. I was hired at the Post at the end of my internship, and I worked there while I was still in school. When I graduated, my boss, Barry Horseman, a lot of people in the region know Barry, the late Barry Horseman, he went to Las Vegas to work for the Las Vegas Sun and invited me to come out with him. So I went out to Las Vegas for 4 years.
So you covered mobsters and casinos.
I did. In fact, at the time I was out there, the mayor was a former mob lawyer. He represented a lot of the people you see, the actual characters from the Casino movie.
Good movie.
Tony Spilotro, the Joe Pesci character.
How long were you out at Vegas?
4 years. 4 years. Spent 4 years out there.
That's an adventure.
It really was, because we were empty nesters by then. So, I was working for a newspaper. My wife had a job with a bank. So, Vegas is a nice town when you have some money to spend. It's not so nice when you don't. But so it was an adventure. Yeah, I covered City Hall, so I did cover the mayor, the former mob lawyer, and it was very exciting. My daughter had a couple more kids. She has 3 now. So we decided to come back to Cincinnati. When I came back, Barry Horseman again had preceded me coming back to Cincinnati, and I got a job at the Enquirer, the Kentucky Enquirer, which then had a pretty robust staff. And I worked there. I covered Boone County government for most of my time there. And it was back when they had beat reporters, so primarily I focused on Boone County.
I miss the days when I could read the Enquirer, a conservative, good newspaper in the morning, and a local coverage newspaper, the Kentucky Post. And I'm mad that I used to fight with some of the reporters at both newspapers, because now I see how wonderful the Enquirer used to be and how wonderful the Post was.
Oh, I loved working at the Post. I was
real news.
I was a little disillusioned because the Post, it was, everybody checked their egos at the door, being new to journalism, but an older person. Everybody helped you out. Nobody felt like they were better than you or anything like that. It was a wonderful staff.
How long were you at the Enquirer?
I was at the Enquirer until 2015, and then we launched, a lot of people are familiar with, the Northern Kentucky Tribune with Judy Claves, who was from the Post. And that was an online-only newspaper. And
It was a reunion of all the Post gang.
it was...
Judy assembled the old Post gang.
Yeah, we certainly had Post people there. We didn't have a big staff because we were a nonprofit, but that was our focus, was to bring back the Post.
The Northern Kentucky Tribune does do a very good job of covering Northern Kentucky, unlike the Enquirer. I'm going to talk about my one beef with them, though, but not right now. So how long were you at the Northern Kentucky Tribune, and what did you do for the Tribune?
I was the managing editor, and because we were a nonprofit, we were very small, I did everything. I managed, I edited stories, I covered events, I went out and, as you know, I covered some high-profile stories here in Northern Kentucky.
The Dooley case?
The Dooley case was one that we covered daily, which, a lot
That's
of people,
how you and I met. We were
Right.
communicating during that.
a lot of people miss that daily coverage of trials, high-profile trials, high-profile events, and activities. So I was also one of the faces of the publication, so I did a lot of networking. I did a lot of, Chamber of Commerce type stuff.
You know some people around town.
I do. I got to know a lot more people with the Tribune than I did at the Enquirer, just because the Inquirer, I knew everybody in Boone County, but with the Tribune being a Northern Kentucky publication, I got to know people in Kenton and Campbell as well.
And you were at the Tribune until this year?
Until this year, when the coronavirus kind of disrupted everything.
Well, I am glad that you were available, and I'm glad I picked up the phone and called you. And you've accepted a position working with Bulldog Media, and you are going to be the managing editor of what we have decided to call the Bulldog Report.
Right.
And just so everybody knows, the reason why we're calling the Bulldog Report is think Drudge Report before they became a liberal. So we're going to be a repository of news that we pick, but we're also going to do investigative reporting. Well, I just wanted to outline that myself, but what do you see that the Bulldog Report can provide that's not being provided in the tri-state, and your role in it, and how excited you are?
Well, I think we can take maybe 2-3 stories at a time, maybe sometimes just one if it's a really big story, and really get into it deeply. You talk about what's going on in Cincinnati at City Hall. I think it's important that we cover the region, and certainly you have to wonder.
I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to cover the region, not just Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, and you have to wonder what's going on, in Cincinnati City Hall, because you never want to say there's corruption, but there are certainly some questionable activities going on there, and I think that's the type of thing that you would like to get into with open records requests and in-depth interviews. Use sources. We've obviously developed some sources over our time here. So.
We are going to be feared.
We are going to be feared, but respected.
Respected.
Yeah.
By the way, I appreciate having you on board because you give us some instant credibility. I want to talk to you about. We're going to jump all over the place here.
Sure.
I want to ask you what your opinion is of the current state of the national news coverage of politics.
Well, it's a bit. I'm a bit disillusioned. I think a lot of people are. I'm a little bit discouraged because there is just no objective media anymore. It seems like everybody is coming at it from a perspective, an agenda, I guess would be a way to put it, and that's discouraging. I really believe maybe I give people more credit than a lot of people do, the average person, the average reader, viewer, whatever. But I think if you give people fair, unbiased information, they will draw their own conclusions. I don't think it helps when you try to steer people in a direction.
A pet peeve of mine is, and it's kind of been proven that people like the commentary, but a pet peeve of mine is when a news media site masquerades as something that they aren't. For example, everybody knows Fox News was conservative, and I think they helped pull the rest of the media in. But I get angry when ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, all the alphabets, Washington Post, when they present themselves as being credible, fair-minded news sources.
Objective, sure.
Objective, when it is totally obvious they are not objective.
Right.
I mean, I wish they would just admit that they aren't. I think it's scandalous when they try to tell everybody that they're the real news when they aren't.
Yeah, I certainly don't mind commentary. I think there's a place for it, but I think you need to identify it as that. This is my belief. This is our belief. I've done commentaries at the Tribune, and they're in the opinion section. They are what I believe, and there's a
that's
place
the whole
for that.
purpose of the opinion section. That's the opinion.
It is, and that's why you have it. But you're right. Far too often they present things as objective news that are slanted, and that's being kind, but that are really, have an agenda. And I'd like to think people can see past that, but they're very good at doing that. So I think they do disillusion some people.
What is your opinion about the coverage, censorship that is done by not only the major news, but social media? Yesterday, Jack Dorsey and Zuckerberg testified by Zoom at a Senate hearing, and they looked foolish. I mean, you had Dorsey admit, yeah, we mishandled that Doug Hunter thing. Yeah, I mean, not Doug Hunter. Doug Hunter's a friend of mine. Sorry, Doug.
Sorry, Doug.
Hunter Biden. Yeah. Hunter Biden. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, thanks for admitting it now.
Right.
But the censoring is unbelievable to me, Mark, because they are censoring the President of the United States. They censor everybody, but they don't censor the Ayatollah of Iran. Let me give you an example. People don't realize this. Every American has a right to tell a lie publicly. We have a right to report something that's not true. Nobody in America has a right to defame. Right. You can't defame. The news media and the social media network have now gotten in the game of censorship and controlling, and it's insanity. Your thoughts?
No, I have some friends who spend half of their time in Facebook jail just because Facebook will put, take them off or put them, in what they call Facebook jail, where they're not allowed to comment for a while because of what Facebook interprets as, inappropriate comments. And then there's other things that you see on there that certainly seem more inappropriate that are unfiltered. So there is no question there's censorship, and it does seem to slant in a certain direction.
Zuckerberg admitted yesterday, when I was watching it, that they allow individuals who are reviewing these things to make calls. How many people working at Facebook and
Right.
Twitter are conservative? Really? I mean, it's unbelievable.
Or even objective. I mean, everyone has a political leaning, whether they admit it or not. But in our business, and I think Facebook was designed as an extension of that, has to be objective. You have to say, this is the forum. Facebook was designed as a forum, and it was
supposed to be social media forum,
right.
and they don't want it to be a forum. One of the things that I wish and we're planning on doing this with the Bulldog Report, is this. Just be honest. In the Durrani litigation, only Channel 5 would cover the Durrani litigation because the hospitals buy the advertising. It's maddening. But they act like they're just not covering it. Why don't you admit why you're not covering it? For example, Northern Kentucky Tribune, I made a reference to this. St. Elizabeth Medical Center, in my opinion, owns them. You think Northern Kentucky Tribune would ever do a hit piece on St. Elizabeth Medical Center?
Well, the term hit piece is something that
they would do an investigative piece?
Right. No, no. We were designed as a nonprofit. Well, they were designed as a nonprofit, Northern Kentucky Tribune, with the idea to provide objective news. But there's no question that when you get a certain amount of funding from anybody, it's going to influence your coverage.
I just thought of something funny. The Bulldog Report is not only not a nonprofit, but we also don't care about profits.
I think that's important.
How cool is that?
That's very important.
That's called freedom.
Right. That's incredibly important, because if you don't care about making money or catering to advertisers, sponsors, whatever you want to call them,
Let me give you an example too. I mean, this is funny, but I'm just going to use this guy as an example because you know him, Bob Neese, okay? Mm-hmm. I like Bob Neese. He does a great job. But if somebody brought the Bulldog Report something bad about Bob Neese, which would never happen because Bob Neese doesn't do anything wrong, if there's something that hits and we decide not to do it, we're going to tell the world, we're sorry, we're not going to cover that because we like the guy or whatever. We're going to be honest when we don't cover something. Everybody wonder, well, how come you're not doing that? I mean, if somebody sends us something and they happen to be a friend or ally, we're going to say, hey, we're sorry, we're not going to do that. Don't you wish news agencies did that? I mean, I wish 9, 12, 19 in the Inquirer would simply say, we can't cover the Durrani litigation because they spend money at our papers.
Sure.
And stations.
Yeah, and it's funny you use Bob as an example because you're right. I mean, having worked in Boone County for as long as I did and worked so closely with Bob, I think what you said is absolutely true. You'd never find anything on Bob Neese because he's
Bob's an oak.
He is. He really is.
Unlike Linda Talley-Smith was.
But
Tallywhacker. now let's talk about this. I grew up, my grandfather was the editor of the Kentucky Times-Star. I used to own a little community paper that I bought. That's a funny story all in itself. I got this in my blood a little bit. But I grew up, I'm 57 years old. I grew up in an era where you watched 5, 9, 12, 19, the local news, the national news. You never got a whiff of bias.
Right.
Even a liberal, they reported, they commented, Walter Cronkite-like.
Right.
And then with the newspapers, same thing. The editorial page was where they gave their opinions. What's going on in this country is scary, and here's why. What I just described was the fourth branch of the government. Everybody knows it. It was referred to as the fourth branch of the government. They kept the politicians honest. Mm-hmm. In today's environment, Mark, if you are part of that liberal team, Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, the Clintons, the Obamas, Biden, you can actually say and do anything you want, and they know they've got protection from that news media is not going to cover it. How can that be good for our country, Mark? How can that be good for our country?
Well, of course it's not. I mean, there's no question. You need unfiltered. I mean, you know, you're the king of unfiltered. So,
yes, I am. I can't be fired or canceled.
That's right. That's right.
Sorry.
And I think that's where we're going to have an advantage.
I think it's going to be a big advantage.
We don't have to say, you know, we have to cater to this party or this sponsor. I mean, I think we'll actually get people who embrace that, wanting to be part of us, wanting to say, you know, we like the idea that it's unfiltered. You know, these are smart people I deal with every day, and you deal with every day. They give them the facts, and they'll draw their own conclusions, and there'll be conclusions based on good information.
Here's another great example of how terrible the news is. I was recently, it was funny, Judge Kubicki banned me from the courthouse because he claimed I threatened to burn it down, which wasn't true at all. I said, is that what we have to do, threaten to burn it down? And the Enquirer runs with a story, and they never called me. And I called the guy up and I said, why didn't you get my response? He says, well, that's not what they want us to do. They just want us to. Now, that's another thing that used to happen. My beef always, and this is somebody who's media friendly, everybody's got my phone number. I always said this, just give me my chance to respond. I don't care what the story is, who's reporting it. You just give me my ink or my little 15 seconds to explain what I have to say, and you can do whatever you want because I've got faith in my ability to defend myself. You don't get that anymore.
You don't,
how do you not get that?
That's something that I've always done. I've always now people don't always call you back. They don't always respond.
But you give them the chance.
I give them the chance, or they say no comment, and I even go so far as to say, if you say no comment, you're allowing people to draw their own conclusions. This is very important for you to get your.
You'll never hear no comment out of me.
Right. Well, I believe that. Maybe there's times we wish we would, but no, I'm just having a little fun there. But no, you have to give people the chance to respond, and readers want that. They want to know why is person A feel this way and why does person B feel this way, and you have to and it's been my experience that most people will, especially if you tell them, you know, you need to get your side out there.
Mark, I can't thank you enough for agreeing to do this job. By the way, if you're wondering, it is a paid position. I can't thank you enough for doing this job. I look forward to this journey that we're going to take. And I've been throwing down pretty hard on the local media because, you know, we have to get to subscribe. By the way, subscribe to YouTube to the Bulldog Show. We are going to have the Bulldog Report. It's going to be part of our channel. You know, I'm advertising right now to promote the Bulldog Show. We're going to advertise to promote the Bulldog Report. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there thinking, it's nothing. But, you know, Oprah Winfrey started out as a public access Chicago cable show. And, Mark, I just think that if we do this right, the way we've outlined it, that, you know, straight up, Bulldog Report, straight up, we came with that low, is I think we can really build something and have an army of reporters and an army of people to help us build this thing. So I really appreciate your willingness to do it with me.
No, it's my pleasure. I mean, I know that one of the problems we've had with media in the past is everybody was so discouraged. Oh, everything's online. But a lot of people, even seasoned people in the media,
it's the future.
Yeah, they didn't see the opportunities, and I think, you know, the Tribune was a good example of that, where you have an opportunity to reach a wide audience, and you can't look at the internet as well. We can't advertise through the internet. Your reach even good daily local newspapers are local. Your reach is worldwide. I mean, the world can be your audience online. So,
I just thought of, I always think of other things. You know what? The iPhone, it just made everybody, it made everybody a reporter.
Right.
It made everybody a photographer. And it's pretty awesome that that's the case. And what's sad is, back to the censoring bit, is here you have an opportunity to get all these unfiltered videos, these unfiltered accounts of what's going on out there. I say this all the time, you're a fool to do anything nefarious because out in the public because somebody's got a cell phone or security cameras on you. But they've taken that, and when you start censoring that, then you kill the beauty of that. See, I don't run from that. I think it's awesome that everybody's a reporter, and what a wonderful thing that you can build from. For example, I envision for the Bulldog Report is think of the number of stringers you can have.
Sure.
I mean, if somebody's in Bulldog Nation and they're at a president of riot and they do a video footage and they say, hey, thank you, send that to us. And by the way, I'm telling everybody in Bulldog Nation, help us with this thing. We want all of you to be a reporter and a photographer and a videographer as part of us because you can have an army.
Right, you really can. And I know people in the business miss that. They hate the filter. A lot of the seasoned reporters that I know that, like we talked about the old Post people, where their ethical considerations were paramount, it's frustrating for them that they can't get the story out.
I'm ashamed of myself that I have ever had an argument with McNair and old Jack Hicks of the Post and all these other reporters that I used to get mad at from time to time. I realize now that they were real journalists.
Sure.
And boy, do I miss real journalists.
Well, a lot of people now look at journalism like a 9-to-5 job. Like people I work with that do a pretty good job. It's not 9 to 5, and it can't be. I mean, the news doesn't stop.
News doesn't stop.
There are meetings in the evening that you have to go to. Something breaks at night. My first job as a general assignment was general assignment reporter in the evening, and the beauty of that was you never knew what you were going to do. You would go in, you knew it was going to be news, or you wouldn't be covering it. Maybe that's not as true anymore.
Right.
But
I tell my social media team, and I want the team that's doing Bulldog Media, I tell them all the time, I said, the news doesn't stop on weekends. It doesn't stop on evenings. I am manic. And by the way, I do choose what goes up. I'm manic about making sure that we're on top of things and we're refreshing and you're adding and everything else. You can't say, oh, I'm going to take off till Monday. No, you can't, because then and people are coming to the websites. They're coming to the YouTube channel. They're coming to your Facebook. You have to be fresh. I mean, if you're a public account like us, like for example, if you're only on Facebook for your 500 friends, that's fine. But if you're like me and you want to build that audience, you've got to stay fresh. You've got to keep adding. You don't sleep.
Right. Well, I can't tell you how many times my cell phone would blow up at night. When the Rabbit Hash General Store burnt down. Well, that didn't happen at 2 in the afternoon. That happened overnight, and all of a sudden I'm getting all these texts and Facebook posts that that's huge. That's something that you absolutely have to, if you're in bed, get out of bed and cover. And another example where the internet allows us to do that. When I started with the Post, and it wasn't that long ago, that would be an afternoon story because that's when the Post ran. Maybe a morning story, but more than likely the Enquirer was already put to bed. Now it's right now. I mean, we had the stuff up about the general store in minutes.
Right.
You add to it, but
before as we close here, I want everybody to know that we are going to incorporate Bulldog Nation News is going to be part of the Bulldog Report, but we're still going to build a team of reporters that can go out there like Joe Rudder and others. But Mark, I can't thank you enough as we take this journey. I hope we get to do one of these in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and who knows where this could take us. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. This is the Bulldog. Remember, every dog has their day. I hope you have a great day.